in the past. I think there's 11 or 12 already up there. Welcome, Kundan. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We've got a few participants already. Looks like 21 or so. And I just wanted to, before we get started, unless you have a slide for this, I'd like you to tell people about who you are and what the AppLabb does.
Yeah, I do have a slide for it, but I can still go. I can go. So I'm Kundan Joshi, founder and CEO of the AppLabb. I started the company 13 years back. The main idea was to create great experiences that really help our clients create an impact for their customers, for their employees, and so on by leveraging digital technology. And yeah, we've had a great ride for the last 13 years with more than 500 apps, a wide range of clients, which include some of the top companies and brands in the world, but also include a lot of startups in North America. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be talking about this important topic in terms of why this is a good time to start a startup.
Yeah, and you've been supportive in the community for a long time. We've been working together for a while, but I noticed that even in this time, you're hiring people and you're supporting all these companies that are doing layoffs and whatnot. So it's great what you're doing. If you're looking to work for a great startup, check out the AppLabb out and see if they're hiring something that you're interested in.
Certainly.
Before we get started, everybody who's here, welcome. Thank you. I'll be in the chat room, but if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A, and I'll jump in and ask Kundan when appropriate as we're going through the presentation. He's got a lot of stuff to cover, and we're not quite sure how long it's going to run, so we're going to get started right away. So over to you.
All right. Let me share my screen here. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So here we go. The topic is never been a better time to start an app startup or a tech startup. The goal of this presentation is sort of to give you a bit of a landscape in terms of what's happening right now, in terms of various industries, the market, where are the potential opportunities for a startup to be created, and why is it a good time? I mean, obviously these are challenging times when it comes to due to the pandemic, due to the results of that pandemic on our personal lives, on our professional lives, on the market, on business in general. So there is a lot of thought that probably it's not a good time to start a startup. Because of being a difficult landscape to get investment in, a difficult market in general. So that's what I'm here to counter, what sort of opportunities exist and why we should have a mindset of innovation, of using this opportunity and a positive mindset, especially in challenging times like these, to innovate and solve meaningful problems. If we get time, depending on how many questions we get and how the pace goes, we will also get into some tactical steps of how to start an app-based startup based on our experience at the AppLabb of powering apps for hundreds of startups in essence. All right, so all right. So sort of gave you an understanding already in terms of what AppLabb does. Global company, built more than 500 apps across the last 13 years. Our offerings are a combination of custom apps that we build for our clients, emerging tech solutions that we create from AI to IoT to AR, digital transformation services. We have some white labeled products which help us accelerate app development for various use cases when it comes to app development. And we have an accelerator where we support startups, high potential startups, and help them through the entire process and journey. All right, so let's look at the current state. So obviously we are in a state of pandemic. It's a challenging state, obviously. We are obviously in a lockdown through social distancing across the world. People are obviously staying indoors. Here are some projections in terms of what this state looks like. I mean, currently from Canadian point of view, according to BCG, the lockdown should last till around July 2020. Now, this is based on the current analysis. Now, I see the landscape changing pretty much on a daily basis. What we are saying to our team, to our clients, just expect 2020 is going to be a virtual year, right? I mean, sure. I mean, best case scenario, if by fall we are semi-virtual or not virtual at all, which is unlikely. But let's just assume 2020 is going to be virtual. And if 2020 is virtual, and if we continue to live our lives, work in the same way that we are right now, which is using Zoom for our meetings and communication, using all different types of productivity tools to work within our teams, using different technology and formats to have our social gatherings and social meetings virtually. That does have a significant impact on not just how we will continue to consume and continue to live during 2020, but the type of habits that will get formed for times to come, in essence. In terms of the state of the market, these are best case and worst case projections. Based on these, we are obviously officially in recession right now. And the best case scenario is end of the year, but the worst case scenario is 2023. It'll likely be somewhere in the middle of that, where the market will go through challenging times, in essence. And it's important to understand that that current state in order to really see where the opportunities lie and why can we really make sure that we are creating strong businesses during these times. From the industry landscape point of view, pretty much every industry is being impacted here. As you see, every industry is in that negative sort of curve in terms of the stock prices falling and so on. The hardest hit ones are obviously aerospace, defense, air travel, insurance, oil and gas, automotive, apparel. It will take some time for these industries to recover, while other industries such as consumer services, retail, pharma, healthcare, telecom, high tech, consumer goods, media, logistics, most of these are still operational. They have challenges, but at the same time they're operational and they're adding value, and hence their recovery is going to be much faster and stronger in essence. So what does that mean for business? Considering 2020 being virtual, considering that considering the recession, considering the fact that the world that we live in today is significantly different than what it was a couple of months back, and the world that will be tomorrow, post crisis or in 2021 and beyond, it will be different. What that means is every business, every existing business is questioning about preservation, about sustenance. Can they stay alive during this time? Can they get enough government assistance in order to survive? But instead, what will be important is, while obviously they will need to make all the businesses will need to make the smart choices, will need to ensure that they're able to sustain themselves, it's also going to be important for them to think, considering the times are new, that they need to ask a question. If I was a startup, what business would I build for the world that exists today? Because the businesses that they have created, all the businesses that exist right now, they had created a business for the world yesterday. And the world yesterday is totally different than what it stands today. So every business is pushed to think like a startup, to think like, if I was to create something, if I was to add value for what exists today, it will have to be different than the business model, than the value proposition we've had yesterday. And that specifically, I believe, makes it a leveling field between startups and businesses. That's one of the main reasons why I believe it has never been a better time to launch a startup. Every industry is going through challenges. Every industry is being disrupted in a bad way, and hence will be disrupted through innovation in the upcoming year in a significant way, making it a level playing field for startups, large businesses. It's the onus of all types of businesses, to new and existing, to come up with these innovative solutions for the real problems, real challenges we are facing as a humanity, right? In every single sector, in every aspect of our lives, and in every industry of the business that we work in, which is what makes it predominantly an advantage today to potentially have that lack of competition and come up with the best possible ideas. So I've sort of tried to compare here the different aspects that you would need in order to start a tech startup, and how the current situation actually is. Oops. Sorry, there was an animation error on the previous slide. If it happens again, I'll have to keep switching back. But so on this slide again, I've mentioned what are the aspects that you need to start a startup, and and how does that relate to the current situation. So obviously, to start a tech startup, you need a problem to solve. And there are many unsolved problems today that the world needs. I mean, we're just thrown into a situation which we are not used to, which no one is used to. We are all trying to figure out ways to deal with it from the health stand, from our personal health, from our family's health standpoint, from our livelihood standpoint, from the way we live our lives, from the way we do our work. So we are all we are in unprecedented times where we are trying to find ways to solve like every single problem that we have. And the fact that the world all of a sudden is faced with a brand new set of challenges just gives you a much bigger landscape of problems to solve. So looking at it from the glass half full point of view, there are more unsolved opportunities. There are more unmet needs that the market has than before. The second aspect that you need is strong leadership. I've called it empathetic leadership because I truly believe that not necessarily in today's times, but in any times, empathetic leadership is extremely important. That we are really able to, as leaders, we are able to understand and try to be on the same page as our team members, as our customers, as our stakeholders, and that requires empathy. Now, in today's times, of first of all, the fact that we are all in the challenges together gives room for more empathy, gives room for more understanding, because we all realize and have compassion, heightened compassion for each other, for the situation we are all in together. And in light of the fear that exists, empathy and leadership are more important than ever before. It's more important to be understanding, to be compassionate towards obviously your family, your friends, towards your employees, towards customers, towards consumers, and that leadership is going to set organizations apart. Not the organizations that are tackling it through fear, by being fearful, by acting through their stress behavior, which has resulted due to the fear, but the ones that are able to overcome that fear through positivity, through hope, and really be understanding and helping and serving towards the world, towards the markets we are in, towards the people we are serving, are really going to stand apart. And today's and the landscape that we are in today does play a big role in when it comes to empathetic leadership. Support. So we obviously need support from peers, from mentors, from advisors in order to start a startup. And again, going back to times today, because of that heightened level of empathy, heightened level of the feeling that we are all in this together, that naturally has created that support. I'm approaching and I'm approaching people who in the past I haven't got along with, and I've approached them with empathy towards care for their family, and I have gotten support back. I've gotten love back. I mean, it's in these unprecedented times. I mean, supporting each other is actually a lot easier in a lot of ways, but is also a lot impactful in terms of coming together and helping each other. I was just talking to Craig about the community that he's launching and why it's important for us as a community now more than ever to come together to really help each other, and because we're all in this together, and only through that support we can really elevate each other and elevate the economy, elevate our livelihood, our lives, and so on and so forth, right? The other one is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but time. I mean, we do have a bit extra time now. In order, if you were working somewhere and you wanted to do a side hustle, or you wanted to start a new company, a new startup, you would obviously need extra time. I mean, all of us have reduced our commute time. I say my commute time is 5 minutes long now instead of 45 minutes, and out of those 5 minutes, I take 3 minutes to make my tea. So in essence, we have a bit more time in our lives to dedicate, not just towards creating this new startup, but also to your customers have more time as well. If you approach someone, asking them for a question, asking them for validation, there's a good chance that they will be able to tend that time to you. And time is is the most critical factor to build a startup, to build it, to ask, to validate, ask questions, iterate, and keep on making the product better. It is a good time to do that. And I truly believe that the solutions that will come up for the challenges that we face today, they will stand out when the economy comes back. So there is a significant opportunity for a lot of new leaders in respective industries to really come up, whether they are existing companies who are innovating, or who are new startups that are looking to make an impact. So that time can be well used in essence. The other one is, again, because we are specifically talking about tech startups or app-based startups, there is a heightened customer awareness for the digital or the virtual or the online world, right? A lot of barriers that used to exist before. I don't know if I want to shop online. I don't know if I want to really talk to my doctor on the phone. I don't know if I prefer things in person. I don't really need technology. A lot of those barriers are breaking down because we don't have a choice now but to live with technology. So what that means is the barriers associated with openness to technology, with the fear of security, privacy, etc. A lot of those barriers are breaking because now it has become a necessity. And if we assume that 2020 is going to be virtual, a lot of these habits that are being formed, if they are formed for even, let's say, July, 3 months is more than enough time for some of these habits, digital consumer behaviors, to really get converted into habits. But if it's end of 2020, then those habits are going to be extremely solidified in essence. And what that means is the consumer behavior in post-COVID is going to be extremely online friendly, and hence a new market for digital products, or a much larger market for digital products is shaping up in essence. So that's, I mean, in previous times you would I mean, when I say previous times, a month ago or before, you would create a startup and you would go after the early adopters. But the truth is, everyone has to adopt now. So the early adopters, the number of early adopters for any kind of company you're launching has just increased in a big way if you're a technology company. The next one is potentially lesser competition. What I mean by that is all the businesses are risk averse right now. Everyone is on defense, right? So if you are on the offense, there is a distinct competitive advantage with that, right? If everyone is, by being risk averse, there is much lesser investment in marketing and sales. A lot of companies are closing operations. So that brings a new opportunity for, again, for startups and businesses alike to really stand out in essence. So there is that lesser competition. Again, depends on which industry you're in, but there's definitely that sense regardless. Um, Now the last two are more so again standard ones, resilience, which is extremely important. So again, all of this, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to start a startup, but the truth is it was never easy to really create a startup, right? I mean, for anyone who wants to create a startup or wants to be a tech entrepreneur because it's in fashion or because it's sexy, I always say that's a myth, right? Because that sexiness will only last so long. At the end of the day, your grit, your resilience will be tested because there will be challenges, there will be failures that will come along your way as an entrepreneur. So if you're going to start something, you need to have that thick skin. You really need to have a totally different outlook towards failure, towards challenges, and so on. So, I mean, so it is, yeah, definitely, it is hard to raise capital, but the truth is, there wasn't really like a capital option for pre-seed startups anyways, right? So to be very honest, I mean, yeah, there's friends and family around which your friend and family would have been a lot more open to lend you money pre-March. They will not be as friendly anymore, or not be as willing to give their money, which they probably want to store it for a rainy day, which we are in right now. But regardless, you'll need that resilience. You'll need to find ways when you're creating a startup, either in post-COVID times or pre-COVID times. You would need to find ways to bootstrap, to find customers before you are to walk before you run, and so on. So I don't see that changes as much. Although, yeah, I mean, post-seed, there is obviously significantly less funding now. So yeah, there are challenges, no doubt. But through resilience and discipline, it's possible to overcome these challenges. That in spite of lesser resources, there is ability to succeed through these factors. Which again, if you, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you would need those two qualities regardless, right? So it's pretty straightforward from that point of view. All right, so I'll move on. I didn't. So I mean, and there are several things to look for, right? I mean, in adversity, there's opportunity, if that was a word. I mean, some significant companies have been created during downturns. And if you were to call the current crisis a downturn, from the market standpoint at least. In the recession during the 70s is when Apple and Microsoft were created. In 99 2000, which was another big recession, Salesforce and Baidu were created. In 2008, Airbnb, obviously the recession of 2008, which most of us will remember well, Airbnb and Stripe were created, right? So obviously there have been companies who have been able to create significant large organizations during downturns. One thing that's common between all of them is all of them are software companies. On the contrary, not as many non-software companies have come up and been successful during the times of downturn. So there is a distinct advantage of creating a software company that's lean, that's solving a big significant problem, and is able to, in a lean way, scale up while being very disciplined about how they spend money and how they invest, and iteratively grow. And especially with Airbnb and Stripe, that's extremely relevant because they were They were started out of a basement and started in a very lean fashion, built a very basic product initially, got it tested, didn't make, didn't make too many investments till they were really able to validate their solutions and then slowly keep on scaling them in essence. So there's some role models there. All right, so I'm going on to opportunities now. Where are these opportunities, right? So when I posted this particular webinar link on my LinkedIn, someone commented that this is not the right time to think of a startup because we're still in shock. And I completely agreed with that individual as well, and it's true. I mean, we are in challenging times, and it's the unprecedented times, and I mean, the truth is we clearly don't know where the world is going and how it will shape up, right? My response to him was that, yeah, I agree that these are challenging times, but that doesn't mean we cannot not necessarily predict. We really can't predict where things will go, but that doesn't mean we cannot try and find the direction in which the world will go, the direction in which things will shape up, industries will shape up, right? And I love this particular quote from Wayne Gretzky, which I skate where the puck is going to be, not where it has been, right? I mean, it's very easy to say, okay, the puck is here, so let me go there, right? But it's in order to be, I mean, entrepreneurship is about really being proactive, really making those bets in essence, right? Those bets, those gut felt bets. In Wayne Gretzky's, I would say it's a combination of gut and massive experience, right? When you get that kind of experience in a particular industry or associated with a particular pain point or incorrect solution or whatever that is, you get that combination of gut feel and experience where you now can start making certain bets that, hey, you know what? I think the puck is going to be in a particular direction. So I'm going to make that bet and go at it, right? And the ones that make those bets, I mean, yeah, sure. There is a good chance a lot of startups fail anyways, right? But if you make those bets, a lot of them will obviously come through, right? And one of the aspects I wrote in that comment was the chances of not trying are 0%, right? And the chances of trying, even if it's 1%, is a lot greater than that. So, so really, there is a critical opportunity right now where everyone is making assumptions of where things will go. But there is a strong possibility that certain opportunities, if they are grabbed with both hands, at the end of this downturn, there will be a lot of new companies, new emerging leaders that will really take the market by storm. Yes, yes, great.
I was just going to say that, I mean, starting a startup is always a risky process, and in the more you risk, the bigger risk you take, the more the return. So as someone says, oh, it's not a great time to start up, you know, the answer is, yeah, if you're faint of heart. But if you are exactly going for the brass ring, there's a lot of opportunities here. Yes, you're right. 6 months, you may turn out to be wrong, but that's the case with all startups. So your chance of success might be a little bit reduced right now. Your rewards are significantly higher in this time. I used to work for, I think this was at Deloitte, when the mergers were going on. One of the lead partners used to say, there's good fishing in troubled waters. So it's the same type of thing. You know, you can go after clients and markets and whatever when things are changing, and we're in troubled waters now and people don't know what the new normal looks like. So it's a great opportunity.
Totally. I completely agree with you, Greg. So now, I mean, I'm going a bit deeper into the opportunities. So one aspect related to opportunities is, as I mentioned, there are a lot of new problems that have been thrown at us as humanity, in essence, and significant innovative solutions need to be created in terms of solving those. So obviously, COVID-19 related pain points and challenges obviously exist. From the healthcare standpoint, from wellness standpoint, from ability to supply the need to combat the outbreak, to combat the disease itself. So there are several challenges, obviously, that are thrown in the mix there. but also the other two domains of opportunities and challenges also are associated with the new virtual world, right? The ability for us to all continue our communication, continue living our social lives remotely. That challenge persists, right? And that therein lies opportunity. And then, as I mentioned before as well, heightened tech adoption, right? I mean, in every single sector, you will see heightened tech adoption. I mean, people are still shopping, people are still consuming services. People still have the same, I mean, a lot of challenges that they always had. But their needs have changed in the way the kind of experience they demand. The speed at which they need certain services. So understanding this changing customer behavior has become extremely critical during these times, while that heightened or increased tech adoption has brought up a lot more opportunities than before for creating a tech startup or an app-based startup. And then a couple of other aspects which are I mean, one way to look at the opportunities is through reimagination. So reimagining what the next normal looks like, what a continuous shift looks like, because things are changing on a daily basis, on a regular basis. So it's important to look at what that current state is and what those potential evolutions could be, to really look at opportunities with a much wider lens. So I've given a couple of examples of current states from the consumer standpoint. Consumers are recalibrating on spend. They are having experienced a new model of lower in-person and even higher virtual connections while learning new skills. And what is the potential evolution of that? When the customer demand returns, it may be for different categories than what existed previously. And virtual services getting adopted a lot more faster than originally expected. Similarly, current state from the healthcare point of view, as doctors are pointing to inherent challenges of providing hospital-centered care. So beyond the crisis, the potential evolution is the world may move closer to a more patient community-centered model of healthcare, aided by advances in AI health monitoring and telemedicine. So these are some of the current states and trends to look at and start sort of putting those bets on what that potential evolution will look like from the reimagination point of view. And from the reformation point of view, I mean, having a clearer understanding of how the environment in our industries, including regulations, including the role of government and how that regulatory landscape is changing on a regular basis and how it could potentially evolve, right? So I've just put in some potential questions that we need to ask, right? I mean, will healthcare go through a regulatory driven reform movement similar to the financial sector that happened during the 2008 financial crisis? How will the concerns on trade barriers play out? What will be how will the bailouts of sectors, what will that play? What role will that play in the landscape of those sectors in the future? From the supply chain point of view, will the concerns result in nearshoring? And then again, from app point of view, startups point of view, an important one is the twin trends of remote work and gig economy. I mean, what will that mean towards new organizational social contracts? So these are some of the questions to ask in order to relay the kind of opportunities that are related to the immediate situation. Again, it's not necessary that I'm not specifically focused on opportunities directly related to our current situation, but overall trends do have a heightened need for more virtual and technology-based solutions in general, but these are a lot more specific. Now, I thought this was relevant. There was a survey conducted by 500 startups for several pre-seed investors. Because it was pre-seed investors, I thought it was a bit relevant here. So the most interest So there was increased investment interest in these specific industries by these investors. So healthcare, obviously, remote work solutions, logistics, productivity software. So even from the while investment might be lower, there are certain sectors, obviously, which are being favored a lot more by pre-seed investors. So that's something to keep in mind from the opportunity standpoint. And there are certain, I mean, from the trend standpoint, I mean, it's also important to see which startups are thriving right now, right? So health and wellness apps are thriving, delivery apps are thriving, meal delivery apps, cleaning and household services, obviously games. We're all at our homes bored, so they're all playing a lot more games than we were before. So it's also important to see some of the trends of what where apps startups are thriving as well. So yeah, so that was basically what I had in terms of the opportunities and why it's important for us. While obviously we are, a lot of us are in a state of shock. These are challenging times. It's still important to look at, to be hopeful, to know that this shall pass as well. But also look at it from what does that mean to create a startup or a new business in times like these. Not an easy step, but definitely something that starts with the right mindset. The mindset of the world needs more. The world has more challenges than it ever had before. It needs more solutions. Empathetic leaders can create these solutions which have that tangible impact on for and be enable us as a global economy to solve some of these challenges and come up with solutions that are going to bring us closer, that are going to solve a lot of these challenges that we face, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. That's one segment of my talk. The other segment is mainly in terms of, I mean, more tactical. That, okay, now that you've decided that you want to take on the opportunity and create a company and create a startup, what does that mean? What should be the first steps be? Which are no different than being in a current situation or not. So, Craig, I mean, before getting into that, if there's any relevant questions that you think we should cover regarding the opportunities part before I move into tactics, I'll give you the mic.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. Opportunities. The other thing I've seen a lot of VCs and investors start looking for is um, e-commerce startups. Anything that enabling and helps selling online are hot right now as well. Where you can help other people sell or streamline the online selling process. Anything related to e-commerce is very hot as a result of, people not going out to buy it locally. The other question was specifically related to AppLabb. I have a startup here who is further along the process in doing internal testing at their internal testing phase. So specifically for AppLabb, do you help startups who are further along the process, doing general debugging and whatnot?
Yeah, certainly. We help companies and startups at all stages in a wide range of services, from development to from strategy to design to development to testing to ongoing maintenance to really helping with the product roadmap and make sure we are thinking of the business and ensuring that the business is achieving its KPIs and the results that you need from the business, but not just from the business outcomes point of view, also from the customer expectations point of view, to really make sure it's a great experience that really aligns with the customer needs, and we're constantly solving that on a long-term basis as well. So yeah, definitely.
And we have Ash in the chat rooms asked us if we could give a couple examples of a startup or app that's perfectly suited for where the puck is going in the new world of social distancing. Do you have one off the top of your head?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I can, since I'm on this slide, I can talk about some of the startups that we are launching in each of these categories, right? I mean, maybe not all of them, but I'm sure we have some of them. So in health and wellness, we are creating a preventative health app that really helps map out all the potential risks from the health standpoint and create a documented lifestyle of from everything from nutrition to wellness to periodic checkups, so on and so forth, to really keep to ensure the wellness in a proactive way as well instead of a preventative way, right? So I mean, again, why health and wellness important? Obviously, we none of us want to get sick because we obviously want to keep our immunity very high. So health and wellness in all different aspects, what can help us ensure people are healthier has become extremely important, right? When it comes to delivery apps, there's one app that we are launching which is really helping streamline the supply chain process for the last mile delivery. Right now, the likes of Instacart are being challenged because they really don't have the bandwidth to provide as many delivery options as possible. What we are doing is we are combining last mile delivery along with standard modes of transportation and supply chain through the right partnerships associated with existing logistics and trucking companies and in order to create an ecosystem that'll enable delivery even during these times. So that those are a couple of examples that, hey, you know what, we see the trend going in a certain direction because, and there's enough proof that it is going in that direction, but there are certain problems that are still being unsolved in those domains. So how do we make sure that we create those solutions that are going to help that, right? Within AppLabb itself, I mean, we are launching I mean, during this crisis, we pivoted and upgraded one of our products, or customized one of our products to a healthcare product. So it's a white labeled healthcare solution that provides on-demand telemedicine services for a wide range of healthcare companies, right? Because we saw that need really coming up with a wide range of clients, ability to provide that telemedicine service. So we created that product because we anticipated that need, and now we are really being able to pivot and accelerate that product, the product. I guess sales in a big way from that point.
I'm working with a startup called Life Points. I'll be interviewing for the podcast this week, and they do points for exercise and time you spend at the gym and all the kind of stuff. But they've recently pivoted. They're a Hamilton-based startup to giving you points for isolation, for time spent alone, and rewards you for making good choices for that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting pivot for an app they already had out there. They were doing a certain thing and said, oh, well, we can't do gyms anymore right now. So they've actually disabled that feature, and they're actually giving you points for walking and staying at home.
That's a great example.
We've also got a couple of questions here, probably more specifically about you and your services. Does AppLabb provide consulting services, including things around financial modeling for startups?
Yeah, certainly. So we have created a partner ecosystem that allows us to service startup needs in various different ways. So financial modeling is one of them, where we help our incubated startups create financial model, financial projections, create pitch decks, make sure that they are ready to get funding, to get capital, including introductions and matching with the right investors and capital solutions. So yeah, certainly that's part of our incubator program called the Startup Lab.
And we, TorontoStarts, we work with a bunch of different accounting companies, but one in particular, Galleon CPA, we're doing a series including financial modeling and what to do. So if you're looking for some advice, I want to talk to some accountants about your financial modeling, specifically when it comes to going to investors, not so much financial modeling about building an app, but going to investors for money. People like Galleon CPA will help you out. There's a bunch of companies that do that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, that was the questions for the chat room here. With about 10 minutes left, I'm going to ask you a few more questions before we get into the tactical stuff. And what I'm going to do is ask you on the spot if you'll come back in the next 2 weeks and just do the tactical part. And we'll just go through that because I think we'll have a lot of good questions on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Perfect, because I think, we said this is about the halfway point. So I wanted to ask you a few questions. So if I was going to start an app now, and I know part of that's in your tactical brief, where do I go? Do I call you? Do I have to come up with an idea? Where does the process start?
Yeah, certainly. And it gets into tactical. I mean, the first thing, if you want to start an app right now, is do you really have the right idea with the right product market fit, right? So yeah, you can call us and we can guide you through that stuff as well. We're always happy to help and make sure that you are, when you come to us, you are ready, right? But in essence, you need to be confident about your idea. You need to have an idea that's really creating the right value, has the right value proposition in essence. One thing I like to say is uh, originality is underrated. We always are looking to do something that's times better or 10 times greater. But again, going back, I mean, today is probably the best time where we can think of original solutions to real problems, right? So I like this quote by the founder of Fast Company. The goal should not be to be best at what a lot of others already do, but to be the only one who does what you do, right? So that becomes very important. That how can you really be unique in creating a solution that is solving that underlying problem. But yeah, we can. The role that we play is really help you to validate the challenges. The sorry, not validate the assumptions that you've made in that value proposition, validate your user base, your customer base, really making sure that we are looking at the competition, we are looking at the market, and sorry, you're muted.
That wasn't for you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, okay. We are validating. We are ensuring that we are validating through customer research, through user research, ensuring that all the assumptions are, as many of the assumptions as possible, are checked off beforehand during the strategy phase of the project, before we start getting into design sprints and development sprints and so on and so forth. Right. So this is an important aspect. If you can do it yourself by really making sure that you have a clear understanding of who your users are. The more clarity, the better. There, you're really validating those customers by either interviewing them or surveying them, and that's what I pointed out. You have more time now. Your customers have a bit more time now. You can actually go out, not go out on the streets, but go out in terms of outreach and approaching as many people as possible to validate that. So you have certain degree of confidence and a much better gut feeling about what you want to do. But again, we have the resources and tools to help you as a part of our discovery and design engagement, so we can help you with this as well. I've also given a few resources. I mean, the Lean Startup is a great resource. I love that book by Rick Rios. Really talks about how to create a lean product, and in these times more than ever, creating a lean product is more important. Only create a product that solves that specific problem that you're trying to solve. Get feedback from the customers as early as you can, and then we can continue to iterate and continue to develop that idea further.
And at Toronto Starts, we do an idea validation workshop. The next one will be early May. We're just transitioning to an online version where we go through a bunch of this stuff to help you with tools and templates to help you map this.
Okay. So yeah, I mean that's, and then obviously then building that product in an iterative fashion, obviously, which is what I already covered. But that build, measure, learn is important. So when you build that initial minimum viable product, we call it minimum viable product. When you build that, that's not the end game, that's the start in essence, and that's when we start iterating by getting feedback, observing your audience, observing the analytics associated with the users of the on the app. We learn from it, get insights from it, and then continue that development process to add on more features, the nice to have features, because now we have a better perspective on which nice to have features to add and not. So being very lean is important. A lot of these steps you can do it yourself, as I mentioned, in terms of obviously the idea and the validation of it. But yeah, we'll be happy. I mean, again, in these times more than ever, we want to serve. So if especially if you're solving a problem that's going to make a big impact. That's what we're all about. We are about building, AppLabb is about building products that make impact in the world. So if you're doing that, we'll be happy to help you, guide you through that process before we might be ready to work together or not.
So as we get close to wrapping this up, if people want to find out more about you, the App Lab, your partner and accelerator program, where do they go?
So I have the website on the screen right now. So the AppLabb.com with two B's, even single B works. You can add me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty generous in accepting invites. You can add the AppLab on Twitter, and I've given our email address as well. So you can reach out to us. On our website, you'll find a chat bot and stuff like that. So whichever your best way of communicating is, we'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, and I had one more question. Was somebody asked if the presentation itself will be shared? If you, is it okay? Will you share that with the community?
Of course, of course.
So thank you again for taking the time. I'm being conscious because you said you had another meeting at 1, so I wanted to give you a couple of minutes for you to grab a tea or whatnot. So thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you mapping us this whole process out, and why it's so valuable to do it now during the time of COVID. Thank you again for all your insights and your time today.
Yeah, no problem, Craig. And thanks for having me as always. I mean, I'm in awe of your leadership, your generosity, and really being a truly empathetic leader in the community, in a sense. And as I said, right, that's what we need right now. We need now more than ever. We are in this together. So this is the best time for us to work together, be supportive of each other, and we will all make sure that we elevate each other and our businesses to the next level for meaningful, impactful purpose, right? Which is the current landscape right now. So really important. Just in terms of last couple of words that I'd like to say, really important that we stay above line as leaders because I mean, the world needs people who can inspire, who can motivate, who can bring in positivity into everyone's lives, right? So that's extremely important. So it starts with ourselves by being really thinking above the line, really thinking in a positive fashion, being very hopeful, but at the same time really caring about others and people that we want to serve through our businesses or as a part of our team and so on. So it's more now is the best time to do that, to be empathetic, to really be caring leaders. And if we do that, that's sort of the first step. If we do that, the rest will sort of get aligned by itself in terms of the problem we are trying to solve, the solution we are trying to create. But at the end of the day, I mean, today's situation makes us realize how important it is. It always was about humans and about people, but now is the time it makes us realize even more that it is about humans, it is about people. How do we serve people? How do we help others? How do we serve others? Is going to really define how we create our businesses and how we embark in this during COVID and post-COVID world, and really make sure we, despite the crisis, we are able to elevate each other.
I couldn't have said that better. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Bye everyone.